forces collide, the storm and the flame, laughter and chaos, it's part of the game. Secrets unravel, the stage is alive. In Psyche's arena, the strange will survive. Who's awake? We're awake. Who's afraid? Let it break. From shadows to starlight, the truth will be shown. The Psyche awakens, you're never alone. Expect the unexpected. Strange and unusual, step inside the flow. The circus of shadows, it's Psyche's show. Terrible trolls in the dark take their stand, but angels are dancing, torchlight in hand. Magic, mystery, chaos, delight, outrageous behavior in the dead of night. Controversial voices, secrets untold, where fun meets the fearless, the brave and the bold. Boo to the haters, cheers to the friends. The story gets stranger, it never ends. Tarot in truth with a laugh and a scream. Step through the mirror, awaken the dream. Magic, mystery, chaos, delight, outrageous behavior in the dead of night. Controversial voices, secrets untold, where fun meets the fearless, the brave and the bold. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. The portal is open, no place to hide. There's no other show that can shake you so. Welcome to Psyche Awakens. Let's start the show. Strange and unusual, step inside the flow. The circus of shadows, it's Psyche's show. Terrible trolls in the dark take their stand, but angels are dancing, torchlight in hand. Let's start the show.
Hi. Thank you for coming back. Yeah, so today, hey, what's up, guys? Earlier today, I started a presentation, and I was gonna just edit it out of my other thing, but I gotta get form bombed by somebody, so I'm gonna redo it. But the good thing is, like I know the material very well, and I think you should enjoy this one. I'll wait till like 10 people get in here. How are we doing? I'll show you something new I have. Let me see. Oh yeah, I can probably do like this. What I made. PDF file. Did it work? Anyway, I like it. Let's see. Okay, so let me add this. Oh shit. You know who I like? I like Trisha Licious. Have you ever seen this woman? She's really cool. I watched her show tonight, and she was really awesome. But look at this one. Hold on, look at this. Pretty good, huh? Pretty cool. Okay, well, let's try. We can start this will be for posterity. These are some friendship secrets about psychopaths. Okay, so let me see. We got slides. Copy, yes. Yes. I will have my questions up. You can ask questions on the right side. This will be a good presentation, though. Don't, it will not be dry. It will be interesting. Okay. Okay. So what do we have? Today's topic is how to survive a psychopath or surviving psychopathy. Not having it, surviving the toxic individuals that we might encounter that may have that, and they will be apparent after a while. It will be very confusing at first if you never dealt with it. But once you have, it will be unmistakable. And the more you learn, the better you can protect yourself. So I really hope no one's stuck in a relationship with a psychopath that they're not able to exit right now. But we can talk about what psychopathy is, and we'll start with that. So, what is a psychopath, and why does it matter? Okay. And so we have some core traits and the relationship implications of dating a psychopath, or being a friend with one, or having one in your family too. So psychopathy is characterized by a constellation of effective interpersonal and behavioral traits. Most notably, a lack of empathy. Okay, so that's going to be the key. One of the key traits is lack of empathy. Also, the superficial charm. That's also called glib. Manipulativeness and also Machiavellianism is known as, and impulsivity, poor impulse control. Okay, are we? Everybody, let me know if you're here. This is a few people in the chat. So anyway, so how many people are psychopaths? It says estimated 1% of the cat just caught a mouse, and so she's meowing. Estimated 1% of the population, the general population, is um, considered a psychopath, but it is overrepresented in corporate, political, and intimate relationship contexts. So you're most likely to work, be in politics, or have an intimate relationship with one, right? They're most common in those contexts. But victims also describe the relational dynamic as covertly abusive and emotionally disorienting. Yes, it is a mind fuck. It is confusing. It is a roller coaster, and it is abuse, right? And so we have a subclinical versus the clinical psychopathy. And so subclinical is going to be undiagnosed, right? And then the clinical is they're diagnosed. But when many individuals exhibit psychopathic traits without meeting the full diagnostic criteria, these subclinical cases often go unnoticed that are equally capable of sustained emotional abuse and emotional exploitation. The reason it's under, um, you know, um, the number is so small, I think, is because they only diagnose psychopathy in prison. I think they will diagnose it in prison. I guess a psychiatrist can, but most of the time people are diagnosed when they're in prison. Most people don't go and say, "Am I a psychopath?" And maybe kids, the parents will think that, and then we diagnose them then. But most people are diagnosed in a prison. So a lot of the ones that are outside do not just go unnoticed. So I think that's a larger percent of the population, especially Los Angeles or big cities. We're gonna have larger populations of them. So why does it matter in relationships? Because psychopaths lack emotional depth and reciprocity, making genuine connection impossible. And so you will be trying forever to make this work, and it's unworkable, kind of. Okay, the partners may be subject to cycles of idealization and devaluation, often mistaking early charm for authentic affection. Because they're very good at wearing masks, and so they can be very early on. You know how people, the first impression, so they can make a good impression, um, and then they call it switching up, right? But anyway, so you can recognize these manipulative tactics in your relationships, and so let's look at the psychopathic control and intimate dynamics. Okay, so here's some of the hey, what's up? Oh, the cats are fine. I mean, the house is clean. I don't know. You're gonna see the house. Yeah. The house is clean. I don't know why people. And it was clean that night too, so I don't know why people are fussing about it. But I'll show you. It should be called "You're about to get banned," but I will show you. Hold on. You're just a fucking idiot. I'm not gonna do anything to you. The house is clean, but I will just knock you out of the room first because I don't need stupid people here. So obviously we have a psychopath in the room and he's acting up already, right? So this is that person is exhibiting a psychopathic behavior. So Because of that, they will be banished to purgatory by Cloud Sack. Anyway, okay. So we have 97 people here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, so what are the tactics they use in relationships? Okay, so you can recognize them. Take this one off the screen. Okay, so in relationships, here's what they'll do. They'll do love bombing and idealization. This is the first phase, is the idealization phase. And that is when psychopathic individuals often start relationships with intense flattery, attention, and affection, creating an illusion of perfect compatibility. The stage is set, and this stage is used to disarm the partner's defenses and build dependency, and especially because some people will be, lacking in the feeling of like love, they'll feel underappreciated, and so when they get all this attention, all of a sudden it's like a drug, and it can be intoxicating. You can feel good, and it's a honeymoon phase. Um, but the problem is that it's like it's a mask, and the mask will fall. Okay, but it goes gaslighting and cognitive control. It says they frequently distort reality, deny past statements or actions, and project blame to create confusion and self-doubt in their partner. It'll be like little put downs. It will be playing with their head. It'll be like, oh, you're crazy, or oh, calm down, you're always overreacting, when they're causing you to overreact. This destabilization erodes the victim's confidence and perception. Yeah, because they're like, why can't I, like, stand up for myself? They're not understanding why, and why can't they, leave the relationship either? It's hard, and they're like, there can be of uh, self debilitating to your self confidence. Okay, so there's also exploiting empathy and guilt. Psychopaths use their partner's compassion against them, invoking pity or guilt to excuse harmful behavior and to avoid accountability. This emotional leverage keeps victims tethered. Okay, so that's going to be, it's like they're going to have the partner feel sorry for them, and so, oh, he's a good guy. Most of the time, he doesn't. He's nice on when we're just alone, or I don't know. Right? It's going to be there's going to be a person with a good heart, usually an empath within the dynamic, because they can manipulate them easiest. But so then finally we have these microaggressions and covert abuse. Rather than overt violence, manipulation may manifest through subtle insults, controlling behavior, or withholding affection, deliberately timed to erode self-worth and without obvious escalation. So it's a very passive aggressive way. It's done like not in like a loud um, way. It's just done quietly, where you're like, "What's going on? What happened?" But I don't know what happened. You're sitting there just scratching your head. So the cycle of abuse is then explained, understanding the repetitive nature of psychopathic control. Okay, so there's a few stages, and so there's this tension building phase, and so there's going to be minor incidents. There's going to be some passive aggressiveness, emotional withdrawal, and then that'll mark the beginning of the cycle. Victims often feel like they must walk on eggshells, anticipating the next outburst. Okay, so there's just tension. It's like feels uncomfortable. They're like walking on eggshells phase, right? The next thing that happens is there's an incident or an outburst. So it's like finally boils over, and there's like they start screaming at you. The phase involves direct psychological, verbal, or even physical abuse. The abuser asserts control through intimidation, humiliation, or manipulation. Okay. What happens after that? There's a reconciliation, or the honeymoon period. It says that following the abuse, the perpetrator may apologize, offer gifts, or behave affectionately. This reinforces emotional dependence and fuels hope for change. So, oh, see, that was just it. Yep, this is emotional abuse and control. You know what? This is what this lecture is about tonight. Yeah, so this is the reconciliation is also known as the hoovering phase. After they'll have an outburst, they'll discard you, and then they'll leave you for a while. You're right when you're about maybe over them, they'll be returning, and then it's like back to the cycle, right? And then it goes into a state of calm, and it's like a deceptive lull occurs where abuse pauses temporarily. Victims may believe things are improving, reinforcing the trauma bond and delaying the exit. But the problem is it goes right back to the tension building phase. The tension starts again. There's another outburst, and it's all the whole thing happens again. Okay. So why do people stay in these relationships? Well, there's something called trauma bonding, and if you don't know about trauma bonding, it's like when you are through some emotionally charged situations with somebody, and it's like even if they're causing emotionally charged situations, you tend to go towards them and grab towards them even stronger. And so So trauma bonding is a psychological response where victims from deep emotional attachments to their abusers through cycles of abuse and intermittent reinforcement, mistaking survival mechanisms for affection because they're trying to survive, but it's like but instead they're thinking that they're in a this like loving relationship, but they're basically just trying to survive. And so there's also this period of intermittent rewards and reinforcement. So abusers alternate between cruelty and affection, right? Creating powerful emotional highs and lows. They'll be super nice, they'll be super mean. You're like, what's going on? Why is it like, why are they two different people, right? But it mimics the addiction cycle that heightens emotional dependence. There's also the cognitive dissonance it calls. Cognitive dissonance is holding two irreconcilable things, like, in your mind at the same time. Like, well, only one of them can be true, but you believe both of them is the same. So it's like they're a wonderful person, they're a horrible abuser, they're the angel, they're the demon. Are they both? Are they one or the other? Often those are just more masks they wear. But then we have some barriers to leaving. Trauma bonds suppress logical decision making and increase feelings of guilt, fear, obligation. Fear, obligation, guilt, also known as the fog. If you remember the little acronym, fear, obligation, guilt. These three things will keep us in these relationships and in the fog and in the confusion of the relationship, making it extremely difficult to exit the abusive dynamic, even when the harm is clear. Yeah, it's usually by the time you do realize it, it's kind of too late sometimes, and you feel like you're already stuck, and that's where they want you, right? Okay. But what's the psychological impact on survivors? There are mental health consequences of a psychological abuse, including the PTSD symptoms. Hold on, let me just. I'm sorry, I need to go. Yeah, I'm sorry. Psychological impact on survivors. Okay. So they will be, Jekyll and Hyde. It'll be the two personalities. It'll be like, like almost like two different people, right? So PTSD symptoms. So survivors of these relationships currently commonly experience flashbacks, nightmares, hypervigilance, and emotional numbing. These symptoms mirror post-traumatic stress disorder due to prolonged emotional trauma. There's also shame, guilt, and self-blame, where victims often internalize the abuser's narrative, believing they are responsible for the abuse. The emotional confusion undermines self-worth and delays the recovery, right? Because when you're ashamed, guilty, or blaming yourself, you cannot feel good about yourself, right? Because you're in these negative emotional states. You're also emotionally dysregulated, so you're going to have mood swings, anxiety, depression, difficulty managing stress, and maybe even trusting in future relationships. So this can not only like ruin that relationship, it can ruin like love for you altogether. You're like, you don't trust people anymore, maybe friends or even lovers or family. You won't trust anybody sometimes. You also lose your identity in isolation, slowly taking on these psychopaths. They will slowly erode your identity, replacing it with yours. You'll also learn how to project your good qualities onto them. And so you're actually, because they're so empty, and so they can be the perfect projection of whatever you put onto them. And so you can see them as perfect, and they, you know, that's not that. So, but actually, you're falling in love with yourself sometimes, right? Isn't that ironic? And you're just projecting all of your own your own good qualities onto them, falling in love with yourself, right? But survivors may feel fragmented, socially isolated, and struggle with decision making or asserting boundaries. Okay, we have questions in the chat. Let me know if you have a question. Go ahead and shout out, say hi. Let me know if you've also been in these kind of relationships, where you are. I mean, if you are in this relationship, where you are in the relationship, if you're on no contact, if you're familiar with this, or you're just interested in knowing this just for if it happens in the future, or hopefully you're not in the midst of something very, very bad, because these can be very, very damaging to our lives. Okay, so next slide. Let's go. Okay, slides. Okay, so then we have a coping method for it. Okay, so this is a way to this is for the short term. Okay, this is going to be maybe for friendships. This will work the best, or your employment. A competitor in relationships, this probably will not work that well, because they will just hound you if you do this. Okay, so this is the gray rock method. Okay, it means detachment strategy against psychopathic manipulation. So basically what you do is, because the gray rock method involves becoming emotionally unresponsive, disengaged in interactions with a manipulative individual, reducing their incentive to provoke or exploit. Now, on the internet, we have a lot of trolls, right? And so I think you can almost replace psychopath with troll, or a troll with narcissist. I mean, like not all, right? It's like some are, there's friendly trolls and there's, non harmful ones, but a lot of these, especially these ones that are doing illegal activity, are going to be psychopathic, and unfortunately, they're running a lot of the things now, and they're doing some very bad things, extortion, etc. But why does it work? So it's because psychopaths are looking for the emotional reactions and control. Gray rocking and removes the emotional fuel they thrive on, often making the target less appealing or engaging. It's just kind of like, you want to look like a rock to them, like a gray rock. You want to be as interesting as a rock, so they're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go to this person, I'm going to get this high from like set, which is like just what trolls want too. They want the emotional fuel. It's like called fuel, right? But anyway, if you want to implement this, you keep the communication minimal, factual, neutral. No sharing opinions. Don't share emotions. Don't share personal stories or updates. Maintain consistent boundaries, and keep your emotions very, very steady. Don't don't have them up or down, right? But there's a warning. It's useful in the short term, this strategy, but it's not a long term solution, and it may escalate risk in some of the closer relationships, like a romantic relationship. It may escalate things. Okay, but next we need to think about escape from these situations. Okay, so we have the safety planning and escape, right? So you have to recognize there's an imminent risk and your life is in danger. So you have to trust your instincts. You'll feel like, okay, this is the time to go. If I don't, something bad's going to happen. The threats have been escalating, right? They have the control of your finances, the control of your friends, there's physical violence, or they're like, isolating you from your family, right? And friends. So you prioritize your personal safety over the emotional resolution of the relationship. That's what you think about first, is your safety, right? Feeling unsafe, you got to get out of the situation. So you prepare an exit strategy, which may involve creating an escape plan. You pack your essentials, you get IDs, you get a burner phone, you get friends that are not going to tell you where you are. You hide inside social media. You get all your medications and your money ready, right? Identify safe contacts and shelters, secure transportation in advance, and avoid any digital traces. Okay, it's gonna be a scary time if you have to do this, but unfortunately, they will probably be looking for you, and trying to hoover you back, right? And they're not going to like that you leave, right? So you also want to be documenting all this abuse, with keep evidence, screenshots, photos, journal entries, witness testimonies, can support legal action. If you ever need a restraining order, you can pull out this book and say, here, this is all the history of what they've done. You will get the restraining order, right? You also involve professionals. You want to make sure you talk to a licensed or psychologist, therapist, even life coach, even a psychic. But somebody that you trust to keep your secrets, and also somebody that can give you good advice and listen to you at least. That's the most important thing. Listen to you. But after you escape, you're going to need to do something else, which is learning how to set these boundaries and finding these new support systems. Okay. So this is how you regain the control after the abuse. You establish clear boundaries in your relationships. That's how you receive your personal autonomy, freedom, by defining emotional, physical, and digital boundaries. Be consistent and assertive. Manipulators exploit ambiguity and hesitation. And so you can't have any ambiguity. You can't have any gray areas with it, because they will exploit those areas. You can be completely clear. Nope. No means no. And it's like, that's it. There's no fighting about it. There's no argument. It's just like, no, that's my boundary. And if you go over my boundary, I'm not going to be talking to you or involved with you, because you're going over my boundaries. Let them know your clear boundaries. You also want to rebuild your support networks, which have probably been eroded, and by the narcissist who tries to isolate you, which is one of their key tactics to get away from your support systems. They also want to utilize the professional help, talk to a therapist, support groups, domestic violence advocates, trauma-informed professionals can help you develop tools to increase your resilience. Okay, they're specialists at it. Also, practicing self-care as resistance. Recovery requires nourishment, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Sleep, nutrition, mindfulness, and creativity are not luxuries, they're survival strategies. Okay, you're going to want to be doing these things. Make sure you're eating right, make sure you're sleeping enough, and you're on your right mind. Okay, especially if you're going to be tempted. But here's the most effective strategy, and this is like, what everyone will tell you, this is the answer. This is the answer. It's not the answer like a lot of people want to hear. They would like to continue the relationship and be friends and things like that. It doesn't really work. That doesn't work. They'll always be trying to pull you back in. They're never going to change. They're never going to, they're always going to triangulate and do other things. It's going to be hell. Some people can adapt to that, but I wouldn't recommend it. But no contact, it means cutting ties to regain your power and peace, which you will forfeit if you stay with them, right? So what no contact means? The no contact rule involves eliminating all forms of communication. So that means you change your phone number, calls, email, social media. You block them everywhere. No avenue to connect you. Maybe they'll have to like know where you live, and then it's like then you can get the police if they come to your door and you tell them not to come over, right? Why it's critical. Continued communication prolongs the trauma bonding. It gives the abuser opportunities to manipulate, a guilt trip, regain control. No contact severs this completely, right? It's the only way to really do it. So you just want to block numbers, change email, update privacy settings, avoid checking their online activity. Digital boundaries are vital, as well as the physical ones. But breaking contact can feel unbearable at first due to emotional cravings caused by trauma bonding, because this will be like a drug. Almost some of these feelings that you get with them will be like almost like drug-like, because these chemicals, they know how to release these chemicals. The dopamine in your brain will be released around them sometimes. You'll get addicted to actual people, right? Like a drug. So contact can feel unbearable, and so support systems and accountability partners can prevent relapse. So you can accountability buddy, right? It's like you can call them if you're feeling cravings to see the person, and then they can say, hey, remember the person did this and this? You said you're not going to talk to them. Remember the hell you went through? You need somebody like that. Excuse me. Next, we have seeking professional and peer support. You can heal through therapy and community. So there's some different kinds of therapy that you might want to look into if you are trying to recover. There's trauma-informed therapy. Specialized therapists can help survivors first process complex PTSD, rebuild self-esteem, and address emotional dysregulation caused by prolonged abuse. That's going to be some kind of like active therapy where it's like, you're going to be probably exposure therapy to like some of this, and then work through these triggers. Support groups and peer networks, might want to have a support group and also have friends that have been through the same thing. You can share experiences, you can learn from each other, and you can also be a social outlet for each other that's safe from the abusers. Also, there's hotlines, advocacy systems. There's look up domestic violence, look up crisis hotlines, domestic violence organizations, SUICID hotlines, anything that you think that pertains to what you're feeling at the time. There's also holistic healing. You might want to go get a massage. You might want to go get journaling, art therapy, body-based practices. And these things can also aid recovery and bring you back into your body, okay? Because you're probably in the ether a lot of the time during this. It will put you in emotional ether where it's very easy to manipulate because you're going all by your emotions. Okay, so we have healing and reclaiming your identity. So beyond the psychopathic abuse, what you're going to want to do is a few things. You're going to want to rebuild your self-worth that has been eroded. Survivors often emerge with fractured self-esteem. Healing involves affirming intrinsic value, celebrating small victories, rejecting internalized blame. They want to reclaim their autonomy, which is like their freedom to be, to do what they want when they want to, make their own decisions. Making independent decisions about lifestyle, relationships, or career restores personal power once undermined by manipulation and control. Because you're not able to make these decisions on your own when you're with these people, right? You also have to relearn trust. Trust is not just about others, but also of oneself. Because maybe we don't trust yourself after you keep going to these relationships, right? And it's like we need to learn how to trust ourselves and know that we're not going to put ourselves in these bad situations. But sometimes it's a hard lesson, right? We also want to live authentically, embrace our passions, creativity, and personal growth. And that will provide a sense of identity and meaning beyond the abuser's shadow that may lurk long after the relationship. Okay, next we have empowerment and resilience. So we can move forward beyond psychopathic abuse. Okay, so here's what we can do. Transform survival into strength, right? And you survive, you're not just a survivor though, you're strong. To survive, you need to be strong, right? So survivors embody the resilience by turning powerful, painful experiences into sources of wisdom and empowerment, inspiring themselves and others. Imagine being able to help people now that you've been through it, right? So you can advocate for yourself and others. You can speak out, share your story, engage in advocacy, and that transforms your isolation into solidarity with others, creates awareness that protects future victims, right? And that's all it can do is be good, right? You also want to cultivate future relationships with people that respect your boundaries, you have trust and empathy with, and that are healthier, more authentic connections. Because you'll just be in a false, time-wasting relationship with these psychopaths. Finally, you want to embrace a renewed identity. So it's not just about bouncing back, it's about growing stronger, rediscovering your purpose, and thriving beyond the sense of you've been abused. Okay. So I'm going to go through this abuse cycle in detail again. It goes through these phases. I know we went through them before, but I'm going to tell you the other ones. They're also known as the tension building. Okay, so there's the stress mounting through criticism. This is also called the devaluation phase. It's this tension building. It's like, so there's going to be the withdrawal, criticism, silent hostility, devaluing, taking off the pedestal, right? Phase 2 is there's going to be this like secret abuse. It's called acute abuse. And so it's like there's going to be this verbal attacks, psychological manipulation, physical violence, the most overtly harmful phase, right? Then we have the reconciliation phase, and then finally things go back to normal. But the reconciliation phase is called the Hoover stage, and when things are back to normal, the calm before the storm, because it's right before the love bomb's about to go off, right? Okay. So we can also visualize the abuse cycle. It looks like this. It looks like this circle within circles within circles within circles. It's a circular pattern of control and manipulation. So stress accumulates through criticism, withdrawal, and subtle aggression. The abuser asserts control through intimidation, manipulation, or violence. Okay, so yeah, and then there's reconciliation, then there's calm, and then it goes back to the tension building, right? So it's just a nightmare. It sounds like a nightmare of a cycle, correct? Okay. So there's some long-term recovery practices, of course, rebuilding the healthy relationships, moving beyond the post-traumatic stress. You grow post-trauma. You also learn mindfulness and compassion. Maybe meditation is a good thing to pick up. Self-reflection, like going inside yourself, falling in love with yourself too, and also being consistent in your care. Regular therapy, journaling, exercise, community involvement. Create the structure for yourself for a long-term recovery that can be successful. Okay, we have 25% more of the presentation list. So now we are in the post-traumatic growth stage. Yep, transforming the trauma into your empowerment. You redefine strength. You discover inner strengths, resilience, determination, and courage that you didn't know you had before. So you have these superpowers, right? You also have you become clear on your values. Now you know what you don't want and you do want. Now you know what you cherish and you don't cherish. So you get some benefits from these leaving these relationships. Your empathy and your connections will improve and increase. You'll heighten empathy, be able to use your pain to give your compassion to other people. And you can renew your purpose. Adversity can inspire survivors to pursue advocacy, creativity, new life paths that give their experiences greater meaning. Okay. So we can look for some more common traits and the red flags. These are the biggest ones, right? It says, so they have the superficial charm and intensity. So psychopaths often present as charismatic, attentive, and overly flattering early in relationships, creating a sense of instant connection. They have a lack of empathy or remorse. They show little genuine concern for others' feelings, dismiss pain they've caused, or rationalize their abuse, often blaming the victim. They have the gaslighting and manipulation, denial of past actions, distortion of reality, and then they have this pattern of exploitation. Relationships tend to follow the idealization, devaluation, discard, leaving victims drained and disoriented. Okay. So here's some potential red flags to watch out for if you are concerned that you might be in a relationship with a psychopath. There's too much too soon. So excessive flattery, rushing intimacy, or demands for commitment early on. Those are common manipulation tactics. It's just to get you, sign on the dotted line right now. It's like, right? It's like this, you don't have time to think, right? Inconsistencies in the stories, frequent contradictions, lies, or evasions about past relationships or behavior indicate dishonesty. Okay. There's also control or isolation when they discourage contact with your friends and family, monitor your activities, restrict your autonomy. Those are major red flags that you might be in a relationship with an abuser or a psychopath. Finally, emotional roller coaster, extreme shifts between affection and cruelty, leaving you confused, anxious, or doubting your memory, suggests deliberate manipulation. Yeah, another one in there. Trademarks. Finally, we have some resources. So we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline number. We have the Crisis Text Line. We have some books recommended. Psychopath Free by Jackson McKenzie. Women Who Love Psychopaths by Sandra Brown. The Body Keeps the Score by Bursell Vanderklook. We have some support in organizations like domesticshelters.org, RAIN, which is the RAPE Abuse and INCEST National Network, local women's shelters providing practical support. There's also online communities, probably the easiest ones to hook up with, and maybe the safest. And that is our presentation. And so I hope that was interesting. I hope that was enlightening. Hope you enjoyed that, because I think that it's an important conversation, important topics. I'm going to be doing these special classes maybe once or twice a week. They will be great. I'd really appreciate if you could help support the show and me doing these presentations by offering a donation, or buying a membership, or just sharing the live. I appreciate all those things. So if you have any questions, I know it's been very quiet. I'm not sure exactly why it's been so quiet, but I am going to wrap up the show tonight. I will maybe be back to that. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to get this all out on tape and have the official school of Psyche start. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed your first class, and there will be a test. I'll be back, guys. I'll be back probably tonight or this morning, but you have a nice night. Thank you for watching.